Hello, and thank you for joining us for Advanced Slides. We're going to go ahead and get started. I am your disembodied voice for today. My name is Louise Flynn. I'm the trainer and graphic designer for the Office of Information Technology, and that means that you do have free reign on judging my slide deck today, since this is part of my job, making nice slide decks. I'll talk more later about other parts of my job and how that relates to the training we'll be doing today. Also on this call is Katie McInerney. She's the training coordinator for OIT. She'll be moderating today. And just a housekeeping note, we have a Q&A document that's active during the live event. So if you're joining us after the live event, it will not be available to you. But for today, it's in the video description below. So open that in a new window or tab. And if you have questions for me, go ahead and type them in. Katie will be keeping an eye on that document, and she'll interrupt me when there are questions, and I will answer them. Do keep in mind that there's a slight delay for these YouTube lives. So bear that in mind with questions. I may be talking, you type a question, I answer your question before you've actually asked it. So we have to play with that just a little bit. And there is an evaluation link in that document, and I will plead with you to fill that out because we do really take a look at the evaluation results in planning our content and delivery and the types of classes that we offer and what we include in them. So I'll remind you at the end, but please do fill out our evaluation when we're done. So with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get started. So our agenda, 3 parts. First part, I'm going to do a lightning round. These are one-click fixes or one-click tips that you might have missed in Google Slides. So I'm going to go super fast through that. Then we'll spend a little bit more time on better ways, our best practices for common things. So I mentioned that I'm OIT's graphic designer. So one of my jobs is fixing up other people's slide decks, getting them polished and ready for high-profile presentations. So I've seen a lot of things that people do in their slide decks, so I bet I can give you a few tips to do things a little bit better. And lastly, we'll talk about personalization, making your own themes and how you can reuse them later. So let's start with the lightning round. This is where I need a sound effect, but I don't have one. So I'm going to jump out of presentation mode and into editing mode for the rest of this. It's a little bit meta that I'm talking about Google Slides and demoing in Google Slides with a slideshow. So we'll be in edit mode for most of this. Not the most beautiful, but it'll work. So did you know that we have NC State brand templates available? If you visit slides.google.com, along this top bar here, you have a template gallery. And most of these will be ones that are provided by Google. But you can expand and see NC State specific templates. So if you want to see some that have the brick already included and include the NC State colors, you can get it from the template gallery. If you go to New, you can choose From Template, and that'll pop you over to that slides.google.com interface. Next, page setup. You probably already know about page setup under File. This is where you can choose a full screen view if you need it. But I want to point out custom. So we've got standard, widescreen, custom here. You can put in different measurements, including inches. So if you're one of those people who likes to use PowerPoint to make flyers, you can do the same thing in Google Slides. I always recommend that people do their page setup before they get started adding content, because if you do it later, it stretches everything out and makes it all ugly. I'm going to undo that. So if you are using slides to make things like posters and flyers, change your setup under page setup, and then you can go to File, Download As, download your document as a PDF or a JPEG, and you'll have it in whatever format you need. Moving on, transparency and on-brand colors. Anytime you're in the color picker, so let me get our paint bucket up here. We can go to Custom along here at the bottom and put in a hex code. So brand.ncsu.edu will provide all of the hex codes for the NC State brand colors. So you can type those in and you get something that you know is properly on brand. I know that CC0000 is Wolfpack Red. Along this side, we have a transparency picker as well. So if you want to make something transparent or semi-transparent, you can do so. I'm going to undo that too. Next, we have the ability to do image masks. I'm going to select my image here, And we've got a down pointing arrow next to our crop button, and that's our image masks. I love down pointing arrows in Google Slides because they tell you that there's something else there. So anytime you see a down pointing arrow, click on it and explore what's in there because it might be something you didn't know was there. But I'm just going to choose a shape. So one click, I've got a nice heart mask on my bunny image. Moving along, diagrams. Inserting diagrams is new. So we're going to go up to the Insert menu, Insert Diagram. It's going to pull up our sidebar with a ton of fun stuff in here. So if I want to make an org chart, I can choose hierarchy. I can choose the level of hierarchy. I can pick some colors. Not a whole lot of color options in this picker. Click the one I want and it adds it in. So now I can come in and type in anything here. I can also change the colors using my custom color picker and put those brand colors in. I will note that the custom picker down here has been a little strange within the past couple days. I think it's a little glitchy. Usually after you choose a custom color, like I just chose that Wolfpack red, it'll show up along here at the bottom, but it hasn't been doing that. So that's the expected behavior. Hopefully Google will fix that soon. I'm going to undo what I added. I'm going to go back, but you can see there are tons of things in here. I particularly think the cycle ones are really nicely done. Close off of that and keep lightninging. All right, the Explore tool. Explore tool is available across different Google apps, and it does slightly different things depending on the app you're in. There are a couple of ways to get to it. I put it as the tools menu up here, but it's also available on the very far bottom right of your screen. It'll pull up the Explore sidebar. The fun thing it does for slides is it auto-suggests layouts based on your content. So you can put in different layouts that it thinks will work. I have a little bit of a love-hate with Explore and these auto-suggested layouts. I think it's really neat and they give me some good ideas, but I don't like that you can't choose your colors. I've gotten a little bit lucky up here that it's given me a red and white, but is that the NC State red? Maybe, maybe not. It just kind of picks things for you. So typically I use these as inspiration to make my own custom layouts when I personalize and work on my themes. So I'll talk about that more at the end. I close out of that. Next, hiding and jumping to slides. Skipping or hiding slides is brand new. All you do is right-click and find Skip Slide in the menu, and you get a little eye with the line through it that says it's skipped when presenting. It used to be that if you wanted to skip a slide, your only option was to delete the slide out of your deck. So this is a nice addition on Google's part. We also have the ability to jump to a different slide in a presentation. All we do is insert a link, our icon bar here, and then we've got, there we go. It gave me too many options. I got confused. Slides in this presentation, and we can choose the slide we want to jump to. So if I were to click on this, it would take me back to slide 6. So the way to kind of take that to the next level is if you want to do buttons or kind of branching, you can take any shape or object, image, and link it and make it a button. So I can do still slides in this presentation, and I can choose whichever slide I want to. And now I've got a button that people could click on. Next up, add-ons. So add-ons are third-party apps to add some functionality that isn't natively in the app by Google. These are also available throughout the Google Apps suite of tools. So we have a new file option of add-ons. I do encourage you to evaluate things very carefully. So when we go to Get Add-ons, we can see the different apps that are available. If I click on them, I can see what they do. I can read reviews. I do recommend that you read the reviews and see what people are saying about it. If it's got less than 3 stars, it's probably not a great choice. If I want to add it or see more in depth the kind of permissions it's asking for, I can add it, choose my account, then I can see what it's asking to do. maybe I'm not comfortable with it viewing my Google spreadsheets or, displaying third-party web content. That's a decision that you'll need to make about what kind of content you've got in your Google Drive and your decks that you're having access to, and what it's asking for. Do keep in mind that the help desk can't really give a lot of support for these. These are unsupported. They're not supported by Google. They're third party. So it's definitely a use at your own risk, but you might get something in there that you don't have natively. And I'm just going to point out one thing in here as well. All of these say that they're free, but that's just free to add them. Not everything is free to actually really use. So I'm going to click on Adobe stock here. Doesn't have a great rating. That's because Adobe stock costs money. So it's free to add the add-on, but you really have to have an account, a paid account with Adobe stock to get any usefulness out of it. So bear that in mind. Don't get too super excited about what's in there. All right, and my last lightning round slide is finding out who did what and when. So you might already know about version history, but do you know about activity dashboard? I'm going to jump to a different slide deck that's had more people in it, and I'm going to demo both of these. Oops, that's the wrong one. Okay, we're going to do it in here then. So under File, we have version history, and I can see my version history. This is why I wanted to pull up something with more people in it, because you'd have more people than just me. But this way you can see all of the edits that I have made in this presentation. If I were different people in it, it would be highlighting different colors. And I can revert any of these changes. So once I highlight a different version, I can restore this version. Google recently gave us the ability to name versions in our version history, which is useful if, let's say, you've got a monthly presentation that you do. You can name your April version, you can name your May version, and then it makes it one click to go back and see what did I change between April and May, and do I want to revert back to April's version? So that shows you who did what and when. But Activity Dashboard shows you who saw what and when. This is under Tools. So we can see who looked at this. So I can see that Katie was in here within the past hour and I was here within the past hour, but none of these other people have opened the document. And for this, it's okay. But I often want people to review my slide decks. Please review and tell me if you have any changes. And I usually have to go to version history and say, did anybody change anything? But if they just looked at it and thought it was okay, I don't have that recorded in version history. But now I have it in Activity Dashboard. So if I wanted Sarah, for example, to review this document and I see she hasn't been in there, I can send her an email directly from here to say, please view this and review it and make sure everything's okay. So that's just an additional kind of layer of activity viewing that you get between the two. All right, so we're going to be moving on. Here's some better ways of doing things that you're already doing. Some best practices. First, some better text formatting. Now, I know these are my particular hang-ups here. Maybe hang-ups is too strong a word with text formatting. First, text aligning. So a lot of times, people want their text to be aligned to the middle of their text box. So what they do, they come in and they start putting carriage returns in. And they say, yeah, okay, that's kind of middle, that's not quite the middle. Oh, and you have to do all this moving around. And it's a mess. And then what if you add extra content or you change the size of your text box? The better way is to align it using the text alignment tools. So along here, we've got our regular old text alignment, right align, center, all the stuff you're normally familiar with. And then at the bottom, we have align to top, align to center, and align to bottom. So if I align this to center, when I change it, it changes with me. If I were to add content, it centers it. It's just taking away a lot of manual work. Similarly, line spacing. I just added a bunch of stuff on this slide so I could have a little bit more to play with. Again, people come in and they put in carriage returns between their bullet points. And then what if your content link changes or you change their font size and suddenly it doesn't fit anymore? You've got to go in and delete out all those carriage returns. The better way is to use your line spacing tool. So here we've got add space before list item, add space after list item, and custom spacing, along with our very normal single, double spacing. So we can add a space after our list item, and we get a little bit of breathing room here. When you're not in a bulleted list, it becomes add space after paragraph or before paragraph. Oops. So let me come back in and do a custom spacing. So custom spacing here at the bottom. So I have it on add space after list item, so it gave me 10. If I want it more spaced out, do 20. And while it doesn't automatically adjust, it's one-click adjusting. So if I made everything bigger or smaller or added more content, I just can select all and change that spacing as opposed to having to go in and manually do those carriage returns. And next, clear formatting. So when you copy and paste text in from a bunch of things, it doesn't match. And what I see people doing is they come in and they say, okay, what am I using up there? I think it's Arial, and I think maybe is it 20? 20? No, it's 25. What size is it? They just like working to make it matching when they really could just use the clear text formatting tool there. It clears it to the default for your theme. If you want to change the default for your theme, you do it in your personalizing settings that we'll talk about later. So if you want it to match what you've already got, clear text formatting, and if you want to change what it clears to, we'll do that in our slide masters at the end. And some other format options. There's a lot on this slide here, but I want to show all of our different kinds of objects. Format options is pretty new. It is contextual, so the options change depending on what we have selected. So I'm going to select this text box here. We see format options appeared along my icon bar. When I click that, I get a sidebar. You have a few different things in here, but I want to point out text fitting. They recently added the ability to pad your text boxes, which I think is fantastic, because in the past, if I wanted to have my text box be a color, I'm just going to pick something. So I'm going to pick something so you can actually read the text behind it. I've got my text and my bullets right up against the end here. So if I wanted to have a little bit of padding around it, I used to have to do a colored text box behind my transparent text box, and that would just get really clunky when resizing or moving things. So now, with our text format options, I can add padding around the sides, and now I get a little bit of breathing room all the way around. A better way of doing something you might be doing otherwise. So I'm going to show just what these format options look like for a few other types of content. So if I select a video, I've got format options open already. They recently added this video playback start and end times, which I think is fantastic. So if you've got a 10-minute video on YouTube, but you just want to show a small section, you can put in a start and end time. You're not having to try to download the video and recut it and upload it and do all that stuff. You've also got a few other options as well. And for our images, we have a few very basic options. Mostly our format options are recoloring. These recolors are nothing to write home about, but it is a quick way to do something like black and white. So you don't have to, again, download something, alter it, put it back up. I'm going to close that sidebar. And let's move on to some better content importing. So a lot of people reuse content from one slide deck to another. And what I see them do is copy and paste their slides over one at a time. You can do it better by going to File, Import Slides. So this is a way to quick add a bunch of slides. So let me pick a slide deck here. You also have the ability to upload a slide deck. So if you've got a PowerPoint that you want to use, you can do that. Select, it's going to show me all of the slides in this presentation. And if I want to pull over just a couple, I can do that. At the bottom here, we've got Keep Original Theme. It's checked by default. If I leave that Keep Original Theme box checked, it'll bring the slides over looking exactly as they look now. Most people don't actually want that when they're importing content. So if I uncheck it and import slides, it's going to make them look like what I've got, unless I've got a layout that doesn't match. So this one came in funny because I have a layout that doesn't match, but these other ones came in matching my slide deck. So it's a little bit less work. I'm going to undo that so I get those out of there. And similarly, we can link content. Now, I just told you a way to save yourself from copying and pasting slides. But Google has made it possible to link content from one slide deck to another only by copying and pasting slides. This really annoys me because I think it's A, confusing, and B, like not a best practice. Why not put it in the import slides? But when I talk about linking content, I'm saying you update it one place and it gives you the option to update it in another place. So I'm going to pull up this other slide deck. I've got a bunch of slide decks all over the place. I'm going to copy this slide and I'm going to paste it in here. What I just told you not to do and avoid by importing slides. And it pops up with this ability to link my slides. So if I link my slides, if this content changes, let me just add something down there. I get the ability to update it in this slide deck. It doesn't update automatically. It just prompts me if I want to update it. I wish they had done it differently because I like the import slides and the ability to change your theme and apply a theme that matches more than I think I like copying and pasting. So I'm going to delete this slide back out. And let's talk about linking data from sheets because I like the way they've done it this way. So I'm going to go to Insert, Chart, from Sheets. I'm going to tell you that they give you all of these options of doing different ways of doing charts. Don't even bother with them because if you say I want to insert a pie chart, it's going to make you do it in Sheets. So go ahead and do it in Sheets, get it all ready, and then come back to slides. So I'm going to insert from Sheets. It's going to give me options of sheets to choose from. I've got a demo one already ready. It's going to ask me to import the chart that I want. And again, link to spreadsheet here at the bottom. This time I want it clicked. Import. It's very big. I'm going to make it smaller. So it's pulling in this chart. If I make changes to the content, open it up, say that some of our numbers change. I'll change a couple numbers here. We just changed our chart. It updated here. What happens is I get an update button. So I can one-click update. Again, it doesn't do it for you. It just prompts you that you'll need to update it. And that's useful if you've got content that you're presenting over and over again. You don't have to keep copying and pasting or inserting your slide. You can just one-click update it. Next, better presenting. Let's talk about presenter tools. Google has recently introduced a whole slew of presenter tools, and I'm going to show them. We've got a couple of different places to get to them. You can get to them from your main present window, and they'll be along our bottom bar, but you can also launch them using the down pointing arrow. I told you I love those down pointing arrows, and choosing presenter view. So you really do need two windows or two screens to use the presenter view, because I'm just leaving this one on top so you can see what it looks like. But normally that would be on a different screen so the audience didn't see it. So first, it gives a place to display the speaker notes. There was huge criticism about Google Slides. It gave you a place to put speaker notes, but then no way to actually display them. Now we have it. We also have a timer running, the preview, all the stuff that's very similar to PowerPoint, but they added something really fun with audience tools. So audience tools gives you the ability to get Q&A inside your presentation. So if I click Start New, I get this pop-up on top of my slide deck, and this would be visible to anybody who's seeing the presentation with a URL. And if anybody went to that and asked a question, the question would show up here. I'm going to turn it off real quick. Then audience members who are also visiting that URL can upvote or downvote the questions. So if you've got a huge, big public presentation that's going on, you can get kind of a crowdsourcing of which questions the crowd wants answered. You may wonder why that's not what we're doing here, why we're having you fill out a Q&A document instead, and that's because the questions are only open as long as that banner is on the screen, and the banner is only on the screen when you're in present mode. So when I'm doing all this demoing in edit mode, it wouldn't be available to you. So that's sort of the downside to it, but it's definitely got some really good use cases. I'm going to close off that presenter view just so we can get back to my screen. So when I hover over the bottom of my screen, I do get the Q&A, the notes. If I click those, it would bring that pop-up back up. They also added a laser pointer, which I think is kind of funny. It's not really a laser pointer, but in cases where you're presenting to people virtually only and not in a room where you can use a laser pointer, this might be helpful. I'm going to get out of present mode and back into edit mode. Another way to do better presentations is to use Publish to the Web. I love Publish to the Web. It's one of my favorite slides tools. This makes your presentation a web page automatically in present mode. So I'm going to go back to the slide deck. That was wrong for earlier, but now it's right. So this is a slide deck that is in Publish to the Web mode. So you see it's just kind of living here inside of my web browser. I've got a link, and it just looks like I'm in present mode, but inside a window. Why might I want to do that? A couple of reasons. It makes it easy to share with people, and it makes it prettier to share with people. So if I share a file with you by going to share and maybe turning on anyone with link can view and giving you that URL, you're going to open it and see it in this edit mode. And I promise you that people do not go and look at it in present mode. They look at it this way, they just scroll through and they see it. That is not so great when you have things like animations, or you have other things going on in your presentation that only show up in present mode, like videos. So I'm going to come back up. I have an animation on this slide. It's not a very exciting animation, but there is one. And you didn't see it earlier because I was in edit mode. I can show it to you in present mode. All it does, that was really quick, was this little rabbit pops up. If I had been presenting as a Publish to the Web, you would have been able to see it. Going back to my Publish to the Web slides. Also, any changes that you make in your presentation in edit mode are reflected in the Publish to the Web. So it's easy to keep things updated and give people, let's say, a Go link. You go to go.ncsu.edu and make a quick link that's easy for people to remember. You update it in edit mode, they view it and Publish to the Web, keeps all your content together. Just a few notes about the sharing permissions. Let's see, I'm going to go to my Publish to the Web. This document, the slide document that I'm in right now, is in a team drive. So you get slightly different options. I'm going to show you them in both places. So we get a few options here. We also have an embed code, so you can put a slides presentation inside a website. All I do is hit publish. Yes, I do want to publish it. And I get this link. I'll show you just what that looks like real quick. What it looks like. And I have publish content and settings. That's where I can stop publishing it. I'm going to pop over to my demo slide deck over here that's in my drive, so not the team drive, and show you what those permissions look like a little bit different. I'm going to publish it. And then in Publish Content and Settings, I have an additional checkbox, require viewers to sign in with their NC State University account. So when you publish to the web, keep in mind that your files or your sharing permissions are pretty much anyone with link can view, or anyone at NC State with link can view. So if you have sensitive information that doesn't need to be out in the world, published to the web, not your best choice. And if it needs to be locked down to NC State, it does need to be in a My Drive and not in a Team Drive. And lastly, the presenter tools are not available. So let me go down here at the bottom. I don't have Q&A, I don't have my laser pointer, I don't have my speaker notes. So it's really the best thing for sharing with people who are just trying to consume it on their own time. All right, so let's move to section 3, personalization. I'm going to cover real quick some terminology. So we've got our theme. So theme is the settings for the whole presentation's look and feel. These are your default colors, backgrounds, et cetera, for the entire presentation overall. Next, we have our layouts. Layouts are for individual slide settings. So in this layout, for example, we've got 3 columns and header text. And lastly, we have our master. So a master is where we define those settings, those defaults, and our layouts and our themes. So the theme is what it looks like. The master is where we make those changes. And that's how we can make changes across your presentation all in one place, one-click changes. So let's talk really quickly about changing our themes. This is probably something you've done, especially since Google pulls up the themes sidebar as soon as you open Google Slides. I'm going to go to Slide, change theme. And you'll see all the options on the side. These are all ones provided by Google. But I want to point out import theme here at the bottom. Import theme allows you to reuse a theme that you've already made from either a Google slideshow or a PowerPoint presentation using upload. So one of my least favorite things about theme building in Google Slides is that it doesn't allow you to set custom colors. So you have to go back and manually change things like link colors. The way you get around that is by uploading a theme from PowerPoint. So it's a workaround. PowerPoint, you can set up custom theme colors, define a theme, then you upload the presentation right here in importing themes, and then you can reuse it. So just for my example, I made a completely blank presentation in PowerPoint. It's called Wolfpack Colors. That's all it is my custom theme. So when I want a presentation, I can import my theme. It's not going to change the look a whole lot. I would do this at the beginning and not at the end. But what happens is now I have my theme colors as the NC State colors. So I'm going to undo this. Oops, too many undos. Come back down. So let me just show you again once I undid that. See, I have these theme colors that do not match what I want. I'm going to import another theme just to show you how those kinds of things will look. Right. It's going to take its time. It knows it's being watched. All right, import theme. Let's see what happens. I picked a really bummer example. It didn't do a whole lot this time. But it did change my fonts, and if I had other colors set up, it would change them there too. I'm going to undo that as well. So let's talk about editing our master. This is where you make those one-click changes, and you can reuse themes that you make by editing or importing them into another presentation. So I'm going to jump over to my demo slide deck just because it's going to make things a little easier to see. I won't have so many slides to go through. And we're going to start editing our masters and making our own custom theme. So I go to Slide, Edit Master. And this pulls up sort of an editor inside of an editor. We're in edit mode, and now we're in like sub-edit mode. So I see at the top I've got my master and I have my layouts. So the master is what's controlling that theme, the overall look and feel for the presentation. And these individual layouts are all choosing or controlling the layouts that I have. So when I select a layout, it highlights where that style is being used. So what I'm going to do here is make some edits to my master slide. So this is where you can easily do some branding. So I can search for Rick, which is in my Google Drive already saved. It's very big. But you see how it populated across all of my slides here in all of my layouts because it is on my master slide. I'm just going to make this smaller, put it up here. I'm going to pop over to my editing view and you see how it's there. This is not editable anymore in my regular editing mode for my slide because it's on my master. It just becomes kind of a part of the background. Now, if I wanted maybe it not to be on one of my layouts, I can remove it there by covering it up with something else, or I can take it out of my master and individually apply it to all my layouts. Because if it's on this true master slide, it's on everything. But this is where you can make changes to your font colors and styles. I'm going to do some things that are obnoxious just so it's really easy to see what I'm doing. So you can see where I just changed it in one place and it changed it a bunch of other places. This slide I use as an example because it underscores one of my biggest preaching things, which is when you're building a slide deck, use the layout that is most appropriate for your content. What I often see people do is they make a slide and then they start moving things around. They say, I kind of want this over a little bit, and maybe I want this one up higher. They start moving things, and then nothing matches because they're moving all their stuff in different places. They've got one layout that's like doing triple, quadruple duty with a whole bunch of different content. And one of those things is adding text boxes manually. So when you draw in a text box, it doesn't use your default text. It uses Google's default text. So it won't be changed when you change the text on your master slides. Let me go back to my master. So even if I change this kind of body style text in here, we see it updating. It updates on the text boxes that I moved around, but it doesn't update here. So I say, use the layout that best matches your content. And then people ask, what if there isn't a layout that matches my content? What if, I need something that it isn't providing to me? I need that text box to be shoved over so I can put a photo in there. You can make your own layouts. You can do that by adding once you're in the master editing mode, you can click the plus button, or you can duplicate a slide deck, which is generally what I recommend if you just need to make some tweaks. You can choose the layout you want to change, duplicate it. You can rename it if you want something more descriptive. And then you can make the changes you want to make. I'm just making some changes so you can see what happens. So that didn't do anything over in my slide deck until I right-click and apply layout. Then I can choose my new layout, and it will automatically move my text around for me. So it's better to do that, make new layouts that match the content that you need, versus adding things and having to manually update them. And I know there's a bit of a time difference. If you're moving something just for one slide and you're really only going to do it for one slide, then maybe it's not such a big deal. But I do notice that people go to their same slide decks over and over again, both in making changes and in things like importing slides and making updates. And spending the little bit of time to make a new layout that matches your content versus adjusting all your text boxes is going to serve you better. Go back to my Edit Master. It does provide you with a lot of options. You're free to delete and add as many masters as you want to. When you're importing content from other slide decks, like I did with my those bootcamp slides that I pulled over, there was one slide that didn't get remade, and that was because it didn't have a layout to match my source content and layout did not match a destination layout. So that is something that you can run into a little bit when you get into making a whole lot of custom layouts, that if you're using them and reusing them, they might not have a kind of place to match to in a new presentation. So you might have to do a little bit of cleanup work, but it's still a best practice. And one last thing about masters is that there are no image placeholders. The only placeholders that are available for Google are text placeholders. So if I want to make, I'm just making a new layout, I have title, subtitle, and body placeholders, but no image placeholders. So you just have to leave a blank spot on your layouts. But generally, anything you can do on your regular slide, you can do in your master. So all of your shapes are available, backgrounds are available, images are available, anything you want to do is there. Something I like showing is when I pick one of Google's already made themes. When you look at it here in the master view, you see that it's just shapes and colors and things that you could do too. So it's a little bit less intimidating when you're in here and you say, oh, I could recolor this. This is a grouped set of shapes. If I want this to match NC State colors, I could do that. I'd have to come in here to custom. But, I could make this match. I can make over these themes that are provided to me, so I don't always have to start from scratch, but it's more flexible than you might otherwise think. So that is what I have for my content. You guys have not had a lot of questions unless Katie's all saving them up for me.
There is one question regarding images.
Yeah.
So the question is about taking screenshots and inserting them into the slides presentation. Typically, they're not the best quality to begin with, and when you paste them into your slide, the sizing is a little bit off. Do you have any pointers on how to keep that quality intact when you are inserting a screenshot? Is there a better way to save the image before inserting it? Or when you're resizing, is there anything you can do?
I've got a couple tips. They might not solve all of your problems, but you might be able to make things a little bit better. So when taking your screenshots, try to get your content as big as possible. That we're not always able to do that, but if you can get on a larger or more high def screen, for example, I've got a 27-inch iMac on my screen on my desk here, which is huge, and it's Retina, and it makes beautiful screenshots, as opposed to when I use my laptop, just because there's more real estate, more pixels there. Saving as a PNG file will generally get you better quality in your screenshots than a JPEG because of compression. JPEGs compress your images, but all of that gets thrown out the window a little bit when putting them into your slideshow. Google likes to compress things for you. It's because they're on the web and they're trying to save sizes, or trying to save speed in loading by limiting your file sizes. That was hard to get out. So they compress stuff. You may see that a little bit here with this NC State Office of Information Technology. It's a very high quality PNG, but they have downsampled it, so it's slightly fuzzy. Nothing to do to fix that. So you can save a better screenshot, but Google still might downsample it for you. As far as making things fit size-wise, you do have crop options available to you with any kind of image that you upload. So I'm just going to add an image here. I'm going to search the web because I haven't showed that. So you can search for files or images using search the web. And they do give you a little bit of information. If you click the magnifying glass, you can see the rights for the image. Image is labeled for commercial use with modification. So we're okay to use that. That was totally an aside from your screenshot there. But you have crop options so that, you know, if you've screenshotted your whole screen and you just need to take a little bit out of there, you can do that so it's not, you know, hanging off the side. You can let me know if that answers your question or if there's anything else I need to clarify.
Louise, we have another question regarding images.
All right.
The question is that some presentations have images as the background.
Yeah.
Can you walk through the best way to approach that? If it would be inserting that image as a master slide background and applying it throughout, or individually copying or duplicating the slides, what's the best way to handle images as the background?
You were right on with editing your master. Although there are some use cases where maybe that wouldn't be right. So let's talk through that a little bit. So I'm going to come into my master. If you want it on every slide exactly the same, put it in your slide master. We have a background choice up here that we can choose an image. We get a slightly different image choice here, but let's see if I've got something. I'm going to search the web again just to find something to put in here. See what we've got for NC State. All right, we've got the fairgrounds. I'll choose the fairgrounds. All right, so that put it on the background for everything. Downside to that is that I don't have the ability to crop my image. I don't get the any choices for kind of where it is on my slide, and maybe I don't want it on every slide. So let me take that off. So I could do it as a background on just the slides I want, or I can insert the image and kind of stretch it across the back here. Let me insert that image again. That's not what I want. I want to search the web. Oh, I pulled up the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Search the web. All right, so we've got the same image. This is inserting it as an image as opposed to as a background. So this is kind of how I get some crop options, pseudo crop options. I can choose, you know, where I want it on here. So it's not truly a background. It's kind of just put in the background. I do order, send to back, all my stuff's still on top of it. And it has the same effect in my actual slide deck in edit mode as it would if I had put it in as a background. I just get a little bit more control over how the image is cropped. So I can't edit it in here. When I'm in edit mode, this background, it's in there because it's in there on my slide master. So it's effectively a background, but it's just doing it a little bit differently. I would not advise doing that method in your regular editing mode, because then it gets very difficult to select objects. Let me just show that real quick. I'm going to come in and just copy this image and put it in here. So if I do it this way, just inserting an image while I'm in edit mode, it can get hard to choose the objects I want to choose because there's always something in the back. And if your image is very big, you kind of you can run into some scrolling things. If I want to get to the bottom of this image, I often will scroll my way off of the image before I get to the bottom of the image I want to change. So I recommend doing it in your master, but whether you do it as an actual background or apply the image to your entire slide, kind of use cases up to you which you prefer. That's probably way more information than you needed for that. But if you have a follow-up, put it in that document.
And so just to confirm, anytime you add that layout as a new slide, you'll have that background, you'll have that picture, and it'll be in the same place, and it won't shift.
Here we go. When I go to choosing a layout from the down pointing arrow, adding a new with layout, there it is.
Perfect.
So it's always the same and you're not having to manually do anything.
Very good. Well, I'm taking another look at the Q&A document.
Right, type fast.
Looks like there is one more coming through. One second.
Keep typing. I'm just giving you a hard time. Take as long as you need.
All right, it looks like any help inserting an image in the same spot on slides.
Yeah. So if you have, let's say you've got 2 different slides that you need to put an image in because we don't have image placeholders. I'm just going to pop to a slide that's got some space. Let me insert another image. Do a wolf this time. That was really big. So let me make this a little smaller. So let's say that this is the layout I like for this slide. And I want to use this layout a couple times. I would, in my master, make sure that the text is set the way I want it to be and I left the right amount of space. But I can duplicate the slide. So now I've got an exact copy of it. I can change this content, to whatever I need my content change to be. It's not the best example because I would not have my text box going across my image, but we'll just bear with me here. Then I can choose the image and choose replace image. And so what that will do is it will keep the image in the same location and the same size, but you can change the image itself. I'll just pick another wolf here, replace. And so it's keeping it same position, same size, same ratio. So keep that in mind. It will be the same ratio. So if your images are different, it might stretch it or crop it, but it will keep it in the same place. So that's the way I handle that. I will hope that someday they will add image placeholders so you can have a better way of doing that. But for now, replace image, make sure they're exactly the same.
Okay. And then one more question.
All right.
This is regarding audio recordings. So are there any options to record audio in slides?
There are not.
Okay.
That was quick.
Do you have any suggestions or recommendations on how to record audio in a presentation like this?
I have some workarounds, but they're sort of ungainly. PowerPoint is still your easiest way to do that because they have those voiceovers and you can just record it while you're in there. If you need your PowerPoint file to be a better web version, you can export your PowerPoint as an MP4 video. And then you just have a video of your PowerPoint with your voiceover on top of it. And that is easy to put on YouTube or put in Google Drive or put on the web. As far as Google Slides, your workaround is to record your audio separately and then save it as a video file, so an MP4, and then insert it as a video into your presentation. So it won't you could have it set so it could autoplay on your presentation, but then you'd have just a small video on your screen, in the corner or something. That would be the voiceover. So it's not a great workaround. PowerPoint's still your better option for that, unfortunately.
Okay. Very good. Well, I think that's the end of our questions, but if there are any additional ones that pop up before we conclude, I'll let you know.
Okay. And just the last couple things before I let you go or while you're typing that last question about upcoming classes. Our fall schedule is coming soon, hopefully next week. That we'll be sending that out to anybody who's on our mailing lists, but it'll also be available at go.ncsu.edu/learnit. If you want to get on our mailing list, we have our Stay Connected information. Please do fill out that evaluation in the Q&A. We really do look at that for planning our content and delivery. You can also follow us on Twitter, on Google+, our training calendars in there, and you can contact us by emailing classreg@ncsu.edu. That's also where you can request a custom session. So custom sessions mean that we will come to you, one of the members of the training team, and we will talk about what you want us to talk about. So if you have a group that would like to learn a little bit more about slides, we can come to your staff meeting, do a little session there. Anything you can think of related to Google Apps, send a request to classreg@ncsu.edu. So that's all I've got, but I'll just listen to Katie here if there's another question that's come in.
I think we're good.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, please fill out that evaluation, and we hope to see you at a future trading class or have you join us for another YouTube Live.